What's going down, D-Gens? Back again with another video. This one's going to be pretty quick, guys. And I'll tell you right now, there's really no new picks. I'll give you a teaser just to put one out there for you if you really are a degenerate like myself. But this is more so about some information that I've heard over the course of this week and something that we may want to get ready to adapt to and change to. If you've been following this channel for any amount of time, you probably know that I love unders in general, right? Unders on the total, under for yardage, under for carries, under for props, under for win totals, under for everything, mainly because you have more outs. There's just mathematically it's easier to go under than over. That being said, this week there has been a lot of talk about the lack of scoring in the NFL and lack of competitive games and all that kind of stuff, and it's not just one person. I've heard Warren Sharp talk about it. I've heard Chris Harris talk about it. I've heard people on YouTube talk about it. Other touts talk about it. I've heard a lot of people talking about it. The reason that's important, and this is not like a fade the public kind of thing, but the NFL listens to the public. The NFL is trying to put out a product that people want to watch. You've got to understand that each individual entity that has to work with the NFL has their own motives. As gamblers, we're trying to get the numbers right. We're trying to get the lines right. We're trying to win money. As a team, an NFL team, coaches are just trying to win. Players are trying to win. They don't care about the spreads. They don't care what's going on outside of their organization. They just want to win. As a fantasy player, you're just worried about the yardage. You're just worried about volume. You don't give a shit who wins, who loses, who covers, who doesn't cover. You're just concerned with that. The NFL is a whole nother, piece of this pie. They are trying to keep ratings up. They are trying to make sure that this is an entertaining game. And I think that's very important because it's something we need to take into consideration when we're talking about fading the public. Are we really fading the public, or are we fading the trend? Because in this case, there's a lot of unders. If you're looking at your screen, that's the up-to-date total, not counting this week, so the one game from the Jaguars, for unders and overs. About 61% of the games have gone under. The other 40 or so percent has gone, 39% has been over. The overs, through the first 3 weeks, there were 28 overs, and of those 28 overs, 10 of them were, had to do with the Bears, the Broncos, and the Colts. So the worst teams are actually getting the majority of the overs, and the reason for that is, of course, the lines were set lower and the defenses are not as good for any of these teams, and so you're having overs. The reason I'm bringing this up now is now that everybody's talking about this and everybody's aware of this, and a lot of the reasoning behind the unders has been ref interference, right? If you've noticed, if you watched more than a handful of games this year, you've probably seen illegal shifts called more than ever before. Illegal man downfield, right, or lineman downfield called more than ever before. Illegal line formation called more than ever before. These calls that were not happening last year are getting called this year. They're being a lot more strict with it, and a lot of these plays are stifling drives because you go from 1st and 10, 2nd and 5, whatever it was, to 1st and 15, 2nd and 10, 3rd and 8, or whatever the hell you're at. You get really put behind the sticks with those penalties, especially when a lot of these offenses are not looking at as high powered as they used to in the past, including teams like the Chiefs, and it makes it a lot harder for them to keep drives alive. And if you don't have a drive that stays alive, then you're not going to put up points. When all of this is coming to light and everybody's talking about this and everybody's talking about how uncompetitive these games are and how not fun it is to watch these games, the NFL is going to do something about it. They're going to tell the refs, stop throwing the flags, let them play a little bit more, be a little bit loose with the flags. We saw that last night with the Jaguars Saints. If you watch that game, not to say that there was stuff that I thought should have been called, but it was noticeable that there were a lot less flags than there had been in prior games. In prior weeks, there was a flag, almost every drive or every other drive at least. Last night, there were very few. For the most part, they kind of let them play. Even the last play of the game is a no call. It could have been a pass interference, I guess, or some people would have said that it was. There's nothing called on it. They just let them play. And that's indicative of what I think we're going to see this week. So while I'm still on the unders, and we have line value, at least in the Buccaneers-Falcons game, on the under, and their play style still goes to the under, we also got a huge line value. We have almost 4 points of line value at this point because we got 41. It's currently down to like 37. So I'm not going to come off of that one. But that Rams-Steelers game, while I'm still staying on the under, I'm still on the under 44, I would not be surprised if the referees don't throw so many flags, if we get a little bit higher scoring this week. And honestly, traditionally, this is a higher scoring week than usual. Usually we see teams average about 47 points per game in this week 7, slate of lineups. So just be aware of that. As much as you're going to hear talk about unders and low scoring, don't go out there and bet a bunch of unders. I'm still staying with the 2 that I have because there's other reasons I have to bet them. It's not just strictly a trend thing, but be very, very cautious of betting unders this week, especially when it comes to point totals. Now, that being said, like I said, I heard a lot of people talking about how competitive or not competitive games were. I'm going to just show you the stats here. Through the first 7 weeks so far, or first 6 weeks, I guess, 47.8, roughly about 48% of games have been decided by 7 points or less. That's almost half the games. So obviously, right? The other, big chunk of games here is 39% of games, and that's decided by 14 or more points, so 2 touchdowns or more. So you have about 40% of the games that are being blowouts, about 48% of them that are very, very close. So it's one or the other, and that may seem like, kind of an outlier, like, oh my God, that's a lot of blowouts. This is not what we're used to seeing. Going back, and this is exactly why you keep this data, in 2019, 46% of games were decided by 7 points or less, very close to the 48 we're at now. In 2020, 46% of games were decided by 7 points or less, very close to where we're at now. Last year, 2022, 52% of games were decided by 7 points or less. So, yes, it was still it was a little bit more as far as like a few tighter contested games last year, 52% of them instead of 48%. But it's not huge. It's not like, oh my God, last year 70% of games were real close, tight, entertaining games. We're roughly the same. The part that has changed, if anything, is the blowout games. Back in 2020, 35% of games were decided by 14 points or more. And then last year, 27% of games were decided by 14 points or more. This year, we're up to about 40%. So about 40% of games are blowouts. But yes, that is more significant. The amount of games that are still really tight and tightly contested and all that kind of stuff is still roughly, let's just call it 50% of games. So whether they're decided by 10 points, 13 points, or 20 points, in the last 2 minutes of a game, if a team is down 11 points, you're not sitting there biting your nails like, oh my God, this is going to come back. It's just, still more than, it's a 2-possession game at that point. So again, just be very careful with what you're listening to, with what you're consuming, with how you let those things kind of trickle down into your betting. And I would be very, very cautious to take too many more unders this week specifically. I think this week, now that it's coming to light, it's kind of time to maybe start turning the tide a little bit, but also maybe just for like a week or two, just kind of we'll look and just take the very few unders. And we have been pretty selective with our picks anyways, but we're going to be aware of this situation moving forward, because we may need to stay off of unders at least for a week or two to kind of let the public die down, let the games start coming back up, the points are coming back up. Eventually, the lines are going to adjust either way. So if it's another week or 2 weeks of really, really low scoring, you're going to see the unders go down as far as the totals are concerned, and then we'll still be taking the over anyways. Or we see higher scoring, the totals stay where they're at, and then we can go back on unders again. So we'll take a look at it, just kind of a situation analysis for us right now. Just wanted to get you guys in the loop on this one and inform you before you start taking more plays out there. So thanks again, guys. Hope this was helpful. Oh, sorry, one last thing. Teasers. What teasers do you guys want to get on this week? My teaser, so unfortunately I had the Jaguars in a teaser, so it's not going to help you guys very much. But for the ones that are left, I would say the 49ers, definitely want to put them in a teaser. As far as another team that you could tease that's going to be on our teaser list, which is the style teams here. Let's just take a look. Saints, Raiders. So the Saints, again, obviously, I teased the Jaguars last night. I stayed true to this chart here. But the next one is the Raiders, or 6-0 when you tease against them. So they're playing the Bears. So give me the Bears. +9 is what you could have gotten at yesterday, I believe. It's probably at +8.5 at this point. But either way, I still want them. Bears +8.5. And then we're going to have the second leg of that be the 49ers -0.5 a point versus the Vikings. The Bears, I know some people are going to be scared off because they have a backup quarterback in there. Justin Fields is not in. Khalil Herbert's not in. Guess what, though? Raiders are also going to have their backup quarterback playing. It's not going to be Jimmy Garoppolo. That one should be lower scoring according to what we're looking at here, as long as the refs continue being consistent. But more importantly, these games are not going to get out of hand. I very highly doubt that one or the other team scores more than 20 points in this matchup. So give me the Bears plus the 8.5 just to keep this within a touchdown. And honestly, I think that they're live to win the game. They may be just a surprise upset when the Raiders are not a great team in the first place, and now they're having a backup quarterback, and their best weapon is going to be Josh Jacobs because Devontae Adams is also dealing with the shoulder injury. The Bears may just get the upset win, but give me the tease with the Bears 8.5. Again, 49ers down to -0.5 a point. And that's going to be it for today, guys. You guys have a great day. Speak with y'all soon, and good luck out there.